If you have crypto gathering dust in your wallet, I've got news for you. You could be missing out on some serious gains. I'm talking about using your crypto to earn more crypto. And newsflash, this is how people get rich. You think people get rich from working a 9 to 5? Of course not. One of the only ways regular folks like us can make it is to use your money to make more money and compounding that over years. Probably many, many years, but that's okay because you're planning for your entire life. That's why today we're dropping all the knowledge you need to earn passive income from crypto. So strap in and let's get started. Now, passive income in crypto generally means earning yield. This is usually expressed as an annualized percentage or APY. Now, there are some really eye-popping yields out there in crypto. If you go onto the yields page of DeFi Llama, you can even find cryptos paying out more than 12,000%? Oh my God, I can't believe it. Bros, I've finally made it. It's been nice knowing you, but I have to go shopping for a private island immediately. Toodaloo. Of course, I'm kidding. This is ridiculous and you should never click on anything like it. Where do I even start? Okay. In crypto, high yields are often paid for by inflation. That means you are not earning something of value, say fees or interest paid by borrowers. Instead, the project is just printing tokens out of thin air to give you. This is why real yield is so important. The yield you earn in excess of inflation is real yield, and this is the only yield that matters. Whatever kind of APY you're looking at, the first question you should ask is, what is the real yield here? So, for example, let's look at the yield from staking Atom. We're on stakingrewards.com here, by the way. We have no affiliation with Staking Rewards, but this site is a very useful resource for all things staking. Now, here we can see that Atom has a staking rewards benchmark of 17.91%. This is the mean reward offered across all Cosmos validators. That is a pretty juicy yield for an established blue chip crypto like Atom. But what is the real yield? Well, if you scroll down, you'll find the inflation rate, which is 12%. So, the yield you're getting is nowhere near 17.91%. It's a little under 6%. Now that's not necessarily bad, but 12% inflation is kind of a lot. Maybe that's why Atom is at a 4-year low right now. And this brings me to a related point. The APR you get is meaningless if the crypto is looking bearish on a high time frame. Do you want to earn a yield on something that's tanking? The bottom line is, you want to earn real yield on a strong asset that people want to hold. So, whatever passive income strategy you prefer, you have to balance the yield you get with the prospects of the asset performing well. These things are often inversely correlated. So, if something is paying 12,000% APY, it's safe to say that nobody wants it and it's not worth your time. Now, with that out of the way, it's time to look at the strategies you can use to make your crypto work for you. Let's start with the obvious, staking. There are many proof-of-stake cryptos out there, but we'll take ETH as an example. There are several routes to staking your ETH, but unless you have the 32 ETH required to become a validator on the Ethereum network yourself, your options all involve giving your ETH to another validator who will stake it on your behalf. You may have seen staking services offered by Centralised Exchanges or mobile wallets that allow you to stake in-app. In the former case, the exchange will often be running its own Ethereum validator. In the latter, the wallet is just providing you with an interface to send ETH to third-party validators. You're likely to get the same yield from either of these options, but since that's the case, we suggest not staking via exchanges because it's not great for the blockchain. In the Ethereum Foundation's words, quote, centralized providers consolidate large pools of ETH to run large numbers of validators. This can be dangerous for the network and its users as it creates a large centralized target and point of failure, making the network more vulnerable to attack or bugs. This is also true for another kind of staking that is extremely popular, liquid staking. If you're not familiar, liquid staking services provide you with a tokenized representation of your staked asset whose value is pegged 1-to-1 to that asset. This liquid staking token is basically a receipt for your staked asset, and when you unstake, it will be burned. For the user, liquid staking means you earn compounding interest on an asset that is both in your custody and free to use in other transactions. If you've ever dipped your toes into DeFi, you'll have seen some exotic tickers that look like ETH, but with various prefixes and hyphens. Many of these will be liquid staking tokens, which are a huge part of the DeFi ecosystem. Among these, the most common and easy to read is STETH, which is the liquid staking token issued when you stake ETH with Lido. Speaking of Lido, I mentioned that liquid staking comes with centralization risks. This is not a problem intrinsic to liquid staking itself. It's just because liquid staking has been monopolized by Lido, which has managed to corner 28% of the staked ETH market. The good news is that the Lido DAO doesn't directly operate nodes on Ethereum. Instead, the Lido DAO has elected 30 separate node operators, none of whom control more than 5% of Lido's staked ETH or more than 2% of all Ethereum validators. The bad news is that although validators in a staking pool are run by independent operators, they all share common incentives and points of failure. For example, they all rely on the same smart contracts that govern and operate the protocol. Any vulnerability in Lido's smart contracts would be extremely bad news for Ethereum or any of the other assets you can stake with Lido. And this brings me on to another point, smart contract risk. Last year, $2 billion was lost to crypto hacks, scams, and exploits. Almost half of this, around $850 million, was stolen by exploiting vulnerabilities in smart contracts. This is an oft overlooked type of risk, but smart contract exploits are unfortunately very common. Every time you interact with a smart contract, you are exposing yourself to any vulnerabilities that may exist in the code. Passive income strategies in DeFi often involve interacting with multiple smart contracts, so the more complex your strategy is, the more smart contract risk you're exposing yourself to. And speaking of complex strategies, we're not quite finished with staking, because how could we forget restaking? As the name suggests, restaking enables validators to redeploy staked assets across multiple protocols at the same time. This means you can restake staked assets, including liquid staking tokens, in protocols like EigenLayer to earn an extra yield. Inevitably, this has led to the rise of liquid restaking tokens, so you're free to use your restaked assets in other DeFi strategies. Restaking is supposed to improve the security of the underlying blockchain's ecosystem, but perhaps ironically, it exposes the user to added smart contract risk. After all, restaking protocols are just a bunch of smart contracts at the end of the day. Now, we can't mention DeFi without mentioning LPing, or in plain English, providing liquidity. Decentralized exchanges rely on pairs of assets pooled together in a smart contract called a liquidity pool. This is what makes it possible to trade on-chain without any intermediaries. It's kind of like a vending machine. When you trade on a decentralized exchange, you'll pay trading fees, some of which are directed to the people who have provided crypto into the liquidity pool. Anyone can provide liquidity and collect these fees. This strategy is called LPing, and if you have a trading pool with a lot of trading volume, this could be quite lucrative, especially if you compound your fee rewards back into the liquidity pool, rinse and repeat. However, this is a complex strategy with several layers of risk involved. To LP, you need to deposit into a liquidity pool the correct pair of assets in the correct ratio. Sometimes there are more than 2 assets in the pool, but, well, let's stick to 2 for the moment. Ideally, you want to choose a pool with assets whose prices are highly correlated, a pair of US dollar stablecoins, for example, or ETH and STETH. Pairings like these are best. If you LP with 2 assets that are not closely correlated, you'll suffer impermanent loss. This is a loss that can occur due to the difference in the exchange rate between the 2 assets when you deposit them into the pool versus when you withdraw them. The question for you is whether the yield you earn, minus the impermanent loss you take, will be worth your trouble. In some cases, impermanent loss can make this entire strategy unprofitable, and you'd be better off just hodling. Hodling is certainly much less risky too, because LPing involves exposing yourself to smart contract risk. So if you do want to try your hand at LPing, here are 2 recommendations. First, Google Impermanent Loss Calculator. The first result works great. It'll help you get an idea of how much impermanent loss your strategy could incur. Second, LPing manually is a pain, and you need to know what you're doing. It's not for beginners. Thankfully, there are aggregators out there that can make this process much easier. You'll have to look these up on your own time. Should have no issues though if you're smart enough to LP. Now, we've covered staking, liquid staking, restaking, and LPing, but still barely scratched the surface of DeFi. If you're thirsting for a yield on non-proof-of-stake cryptos and you don't want to deal with impermanent loss, then DeFi lending might be for you. On the vanilla end, you can lend crypto through blue-chip protocols like Aave to earn a modest rate of interest. USDC, for example, currently has a supply APY of 3.8%. It's not life-changing, but it's still probably better than what your bank is offering. Or, instead of Aave, you could earn a yield on stablecoins through real-world asset or RWA protocols. Ondo is offering a more attractive yield of 5.35% APY for USDY, which is Ondo's tokenized US government bond. You can see here that the price of one USDY is approaching $1.06. This is because it accrues yield daily, whether you're staking, borrowing, pledging, or just holding it. As the source of the yield is the US government, it's arguably one of the safest yields in crypto, precisely because, well, it's not really crypto. It's TradFi brought on chain. Now, DeFi has a pretty steep learning curve. If you don't have a background in finance, trading, or messing around on chain, then some of this is going to go way over your head, and it might not be for you. Luckily, passive income strategies have become a staple feature of centralized exchanges too. This generally means a more accessible and smooth user experience. So if that's more your speed, then we've got good news for you. If you head to the Coin Bureau deals page, you can get trading fee discounts of up to 70% and sign-up bonuses of up to $100,000 on the best centralized exchanges. If you're planning on using a centralized exchange, you don't want to leave benefits like this on the table. They won't be around forever, so check out the link in the description and get them while they're hot. Anyhow, for demonstration purposes today, we'll use Bybit, although you will find that many exchanges have a similar range of passive income products under different names. Lending, for example, is possible on most leading exchanges. On Bybit, it's called Bybit Savings. Now, Bybit uses terms like stake and unstake here, but this is a bit misleading because this product does not delegate your crypto to a validator on a proof-of-stake blockchain. It's just lending your crypto to other traders on Bybit in exchange for interest. You can go for a flexible loan term that allows you to withdraw your assets at any time. Or if you want a slightly higher yield, you can go for a fixed-term loan where your crypto will be locked up and inaccessible for the duration. When lending on an exchange, aside from the fundamental risk of keeping your assets on an exchange, you're also relying on the liquidation engine to not have any bad debts that can't be repaid. We have never had a problem with this, but relying on this mechanism to always work is another risk you're taking on. Moving on, like many other exchanges, Bybit has a dual asset product that will show you some eye-popping APRs. Without knowing anything else, this already tells you that there's a lot of risk involved. That's because dual asset is crypto options trading by another name. Now, options are complex and risky derivatives, and trading them is not exactly the most passive strategy out there either. But since Bybit put it on their passive income platform, let's explain. The APR you see comes from other market participants on Bybit paying you a premium in exchange for the option to trade an asset with you at a pre-arranged price at a future date. This date is often only a few days into the future, meaning that the crazy annualized returns you see can be misleading. Look, I'm going to give it to you straight. Options trading is not for the faint of heart. If you want a relatively easy and stress-free way to bring in passive income in the long term, then, well, dual asset is not for you. Not financial advice, of course. Next up, liquidity mining. Now this sounds cool, but it's worth pointing out that it's, well, just LPing by another name. These exchanges love to rebrand existing strategies, and I have to admit it sounds better than LPing. So, Bybit provides you with a really convenient interface to provide liquidity to an automated market maker, just like LPing on-chain. You earn a yield that accrues daily and varies depending on trading volume. At the time of making this video, they're advertising at a 23% annualized rate for ETH USDT. So if I add $1,000 worth of liquidity, this would bring in around $1.92 a month, although the rate varies, so it could end up lower or higher. If that doesn't get you excited, Bybit offers you the ability to leverage up to 10x, so that $1,000 becomes $10,000, and then we'd be looking at something like $19 per month. Of course, with leverage comes liquidation. In this case, if ETH drops 15%, as it so often loves to do, I'll be liquidated and left empty-handed. All right, I could keep going deeper into the passive income strategies available in crypto. There is some fascinating innovation going on in DeFi, and the competition between centralized exchanges is forcing them to all up their game too. But we've covered the basics and given you an idea of the risks involved because, unfortunately, there are always risks involved when you're putting your crypto on the line to earn more crypto. So, I'll leave you with one last thought. When you're deciding on a passive income strategy in crypto, there's one thing you should always do. Google the compound annual growth rate of Bitcoin and ask yourself if your passive income strategy has a better risk-reward profile than buying and holding BTC. This isn't a gotcha moment, but the numbers speak for themselves. Take a look at the risks and rewards of all the strategies available and make the right decision for you. Good luck. Okay, that's a wrap, folks. If you got something out of this video, go ahead and drop us a like. Tell us about your passive income strategy in the comments and make sure you're subscribed and have your bell notifications turned on so that you never miss another upload. As always, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. This is Guy, signing off.